It's time to lock in my Game Week 33 team selection, and my bench boost is active. However, with Man United and Spurs winning in the Europa League, it has now made two single game week players maybe better than any double game week player. And we've got to discuss that in today's video. So as always, if you're looking forward to it, make sure to drop a like and of course, hit that subscribe button for daily fantasy content. Enough waffling, let's get into today's video. So first up, as always, just a quick recap on how Game Week 32 went for my team. Is last time I recorded, we still had the Newcastle Palace game to go and my triple captain was active on Isak. And if you said to me 5 goals in the second part of the double, I would be licking my lips. So to walk away with only 11 pointer, obviously triple to 33, I shouldn't be complaining. But with so many goals scored by Newcastle, I do feel a little bit salty that it could have been a bit better. But look, we cannot complain with the overall game week. 92 points and now an overall rank of 64k. We needed that. The last 2 game weeks, we've had a game week rank of 400k and 130k. All you need is monster weeks to get yourself up these overall ranks, and thankfully we had that. So 92 points. I'm not going to go through the other players, as of course I covered that in my previous transfer plans video, but Jacob Murphy, all I have to say is thank you so much for saving the game week with that 19-point haul. In terms of my actual players themselves, I think Cole Palmer, of course, was an experiment that didn't pay off. We went for Palmer over Saka on the wildcard 30. And to be honest with you, quite happy with the decision. We spoke about how I felt Saka wasn't really going to get significant minutes. That came to fruition and Palmer played better minutes, but we can't control the outcome. And it is what it is. I think Palmer should have done a little bit better, but it looks like he is going to be sold by most managers going into double game week 33. So as I mentioned, 92 points, a really, really good game week. Big green arrow now going into double game week 33. Let me know any points you scored in the comment section, but now let's focus on game week 33 as it could be one of the biggest game weeks of the season. Okay, so I think it's really, really important right now with the back end of the season upon us to just take a look at what we know and what we still need to have announced for us between now and game week 38 and establish exactly what we want to do with our teams and chip strategy. So first up, we have got the fixture ticker here from FPL.team in collaboration with Planet FPL. And I just want to quickly run through the game weeks that are confirmed and the ones that we're still waiting upon. So double game week 33, hopefully you already know that, is for Arsenal, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace and Man City. Then importantly, those 4 teams that double in 33 officially blank in game week 34, which you can see in that column there. Game week 35 is a normal single game week. Then we got 36, which is predicted to be a double game week, but we haven't had any official announcement yet. And the closer we're getting to game week 34, 35, and they don't make an announcement, we are going to get a little bit nervous that they might not actually turn it into a double. But if we were to get Aston Villa progress to the FA Cup final alongside Man City, which basically is what the bookies' odds are saying, then we will get likely a Villa double, a Bournemouth double, a Man City double, which looks really good, and a Spurs double. So that is what we're projecting, but it hasn't been officially announced. That would mean then game week 37 would be a blank for those teams. And then, of course, game week 38 is the usual final day of the season. Everybody kicking off at the same time. Beautiful carnage. So right now, with my chip strategy, I have basically geared my team to be locked into what I have got. A game week 33 bench boost, and we'll touch on that later when we do the team selection. And therefore, because I'm investing in those teams that double in 33, I by default will then be playing my free hit in game week 34. I do think there is some logic to keep hold of the bench boost and the free hit for later on in the season, game week 36, game week 37. But if we don't officially get that announcement and you've kept those chips back for the possibility of that and it doesn't come to fruition, then we could have a bit of problems when we have the opportunity presented in front of us. So that is the landscape right now. We're waiting on game week 36 and 37 to possibly be announced, but we might not actually know that until the FA Cup happens. And my chip strategy is pretty much locked in. So I think the big decision for FPL managers going into game week 33 and for my team as well is what to do with Cole Palmer. He's currently one of the most sold players going into this game week. And by default, it looks like most managers are just making the easy sideways move to Bukayo Saka. Of course, has a double game week and played about 75 minutes in that Real Madrid game, second leg. So it seems like an absolute no-brainer to do Cole Palmer to Bukayo Saka. However, I do just want to put a few caveats in there where I think Bukayo Saka isn't just as obvious as other managers are possibly making out. And the two contenders that I want to put into the hat are going to be single game weekers, controversially. And that is going to be Brentford's Mbeumo and West Ham's Jarrod Bowen. Now, the reason why I think it is even more exciting right now in terms of going for single game weekers is because of what happened in the Europa League. Spurs progressed to the semi-final, and the same of that of Man United. Anybody that watched that game, what a crazy ending that was. And that has made Brentford and West Ham fixtures very, very interesting. And from a long-term perspective, I would make the argument that actually Brentford and West Ham are better fixtures to target than that of Arsenal, even though they have the double. So let's just first up take a look at Saka and why I think there is a slight issue regarding this. Now, Game week 33, I actually think is quite good for Bukayo Saka. They got the Sunday game away against Ipswich, and then they have got the Wednesday game at home against Palace. And the Champions League first leg is actually 6 days later. So I think Saka gets decent minutes over this double game week. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was to play maybe 80 in one and 60 in the other. I honestly think he could. However, after that, we have got the blank in 34 if you're free hitting it isn't a problem. Then in game week 35, we've got the Bournemouth game, which is wedged between the first and second leg of the PSG games. Not ideal at all. And then in game week 36, even though Arsenal are a good team, away against Liverpool, who probably have won the league by then, not ideal, considering it is also 4 days after the second leg against PSG. So I think this Champions League fixture is going to be a real problem for Arsenal and in that of Saka. And then in 37 at home against Newcastle is fine, but it's not incredible, is it? So I think Saka for game week 33 is great, but long term I think it could be problematic. Now, if we take a look at Bryan Mbeumo here, the reason why I really do like Mbeumo right now is because of that Europa League involvement that Man United do have. So at home against Brighton in game week 33 is good as a single game week. I think Brighton defensively are still very suspect. If you don't have a free hit in 34 available, I think he's really good. If you're free hitting, just ignore that fixture. Now this is where it's interesting. Game week 35, Brentford, right now based on the scheduling, are going to play Man United between their Europa League fixtures, which is massive. That is really important because Amorim has already come out and stated that Man United are going to have to play their kids. So you're going to have Bryan Mbeumo up against a really, really ropey back three. Then they've got Ipswich away in 36. 37, they got Fulham, and they finished the season away against Wolves. So I think Mbeumo already was a great pick, even better now that Man United have progressed during that stage. Now, the really interesting one that I'm excited about is going to be Jarrod Bowen at 7.5 million. Southampton at home in game week 33. I honestly think he could outscore any double game weeker in this particular week. Then in game week 34 away against Brighton, not ideal, but again, if you're free hitting, ignore it. Now, this is where it's tasty. In game week 35, they have Spurs at home. That is going to be wedged in between the first and second leg of Spurs' Europa League. And I think there's going to be mass rotation with Spurs having absolutely nothing to play for in the Premier League. And Ange needs to get a trophy in the door for Spurs. Then they've got Man United away in game week 36, which on paper doesn't sound great. But that is going to come 2 days after their second leg against Athletic Club. So this is a fantastic fixture now for West Ham, where there's going to be a fatigued Man United team with young legs in it. So that looks great. And then they got Forest at home in 37 and Ipswich away in game week 38. So I know it's been a big ramble right now, but the fact that Spurs and Man United are now progressed, I honestly think managers need to now consider these single game weekers in Mbeumo and Bowen, because long term, you know you're getting guaranteed 90 minutes and great fixtures long term. And it's now put a huge curveball in my team as I was locked in on Saka, and now I need to decide whether I need to lean in on these single game week players. So moving into my game week 33 team selection, and as you can see by that lovely graphic here, it is highlighted that my bench boost is active. So we don't have to talk about benching headaches this week, thankfully. So as you can see, we are going to make a transfer in the defensive spot, and that is going to be Gabriel out to Kivior. I haven't made the move officially yet, and we haven't really touched on Kivior apart from my transfer plan video. Do check that out if you want a bit more detail. But Gabriel Kivior just makes a lot of sense to me. I think the Champions League game was really, really revealing. I think Kivior playing the first leg and the second leg alongside Saliba just reaffirms that he is locked in as that starting centre-back. Now, of course, any player is at risk of rotation at any time. But I just don't see any reason why Arteta is going to take Kivior out of the team. Him and Saliba need to continue to establish that partnership. And I just don't see any reason why you would take him out. So Kivior for me is just a no-brainer to go for outside of Saliba. He's much, much cheaper. And I think his minutes are as good. So Gabriel Kivior, whatever direction I take this team, that is absolutely locked in because I want double Arsenal defence away against Ipswich and at home against Crystal Palace. I think with Arsenal's fixture schedule coming up, and I've discussed how I think it is a bit problematic from a minutes perspective, I want players that I think are locked in. And I also think Arsenal might just make the games very, very stale and walk away with these clean sheets. So Raya and Kivior as the double up for Arsenal. We got Munoz. Now, I haven't touched on Crystal Palace in this video, but I honestly do think they are a problem for that away game against Arsenal, which is 3 or 4 days before the FA Cup semi-final, which naturally is going to be a priority for Glasner in some capacity. So I think we get one game from Munoz, and I don't think he plays the second, which is not ideal. And of course, Vardial with the double. Am I expecting a clean sheet in either? Probably not. So let's hope he does play at left back at some point in those fixtures. And in terms of my defence here, Livramento away against Aston Villa, not ideal, but I don't think it's a priority to sell him as I don't really love many other defenders. And Concert with the double again. Some concerns that we could see some rotation in preparation for the FA Cup semi-final, but no need to sell him in this spot. So that is the current goalkeeper defensive combination, and Gabriel Kivior is pretty much locked in. So moving into my game week 33 midfield, and this is where the biggest headache is going to be, and probably one that I've not had in a long time in FPL. Now, I spoke about previously how the single game week players was where I really wanted to go towards, but as you can see right now, I am going for what I'm going to call the boring picks in Morgan Rogers and Bukayo Saka. Now, regardless, Cole Palmer is going to be sold in my team. I just don't see a need to keep a hold of him. And the decent enough fixture in game week 34, I will be free hitting him in. So I don't really have to worry about missing out on that game. Now, as you can see, I currently have Bukayo Saka in. I spoke about in detail him up against those single game weekers in Bowen Mbeumo and Jarrod Bowen. And I really do believe that between now and game week 38, I would make the case that both of those are as good as Bukayo Saka. My issue is that I really do think game week 33 is good for Bukayo Saka. I think there's been enough rest time for the Ipswich game. There's enough rest time for the Crystal Palace game. And the gap between Crystal Palace and the first leg is enough for me to think that Saka can play significant minutes against a heavily rotated Crystal Palace team in preparation for the FA Cup semi-final. So the reason why Saka's in right now is just because what if I get it wrong and Saka actually just plays significant minutes in the double and then also gets rolled out in game week 35, which still isn't a bad fixture at home against Bournemouth. So right now I am going for the boring pick in Bukayo Saka, but it's worth noting I easily could swing this towards Jarrod Bowen, and I will try and show an alternative team at the end. And in terms of the other move, Jacob Murphy out seems really, really harsh considering he delivered that 19-pointer in game week 32. But I do think at the same price point, Morgan Rogers is a good investment. I just think right now he's indestructible. He basically is a mini Bruno Fernandes. He just gets rolled out in every single fixture. And I think the more we overthink it and we convince ourselves Rogers eventually gets benched, it just isn't going to happen. So the double game week, not ideal, but I still think there are opportunities there for Rogers. And you also are buying him with the hope that you get the double game week 36 as well. Then he becomes a fantastic long-term pick. So right now we're planning to do Palmer and Murphy out to Saka and Rogers, but I'm not locked in on that yet. We're going to keep Sarr, even though I think he's a big rotation risk away against Arsenal, and Mo Salah away against Leicester. Quietly is a fantastic captaincy pick. The big one here is going to be Savinho. Now, I haven't touched on this in the video, but we are most likely going to get some sort of Man City early team news. I'm quite confident of that. Because we have a 1:30 deadline, Man City kicking off at 3 p.m, I wouldn't be surprised if we do get some sort of news. And if we get an idea that Savinho is actually benched, then I would be very, very tempted to take a -4 with the money in the bank and just get rid of him and buy Jarrod Bowen as part of this combination. it would be for a -4, but as I've spoken about, Jarrod Bowen at home against Southampton, I'm willing to take a -4 for that fixture and the reasons that I discussed beyond. But that is going to all come down to that Man City team news, and a good reason why you should tune into my live stream before the deadline. Finally, take a look at my game week 33 forwards, and I haven't really had a headache here, but I do think there are opportunities to go for differentials if you want to. So first up, Marmoush, obviously locked in on this team, and I think he is one of the standout captaincy picks this game. We will touch on that in a minute. Now, Alexander Isak was lined up for a lot of managers to go to Ollie Watkins for this double game week, and I do think if Ollie Watkins was to be normal Watkins, where we know he basically plays 80 minutes in the first, 80 minutes in the second, I think everybody would be making that move. The problem is Emery has come out and stated that he views Marcus Rashford as a number 9, and that means he's basically competing alongside Ollie Watkins. And for that reason, I have no idea what those minutes for Ollie Watkins are going to be. He could start the Man City game, and he might be benched for the Newcastle game. And then, do I just prefer Alexander Isak away against Villa? And I think the answer is going to be yes. So it's a real shame that Rashford is now being deemed a number 9 by Emery, because I think Watkins could be fantastic, but I don't think the risk is worth taking. And then we got Mateta. Now, this has been one of the most disappointing transfers I've done in a long time. And similar to Munoz and similar to Sarr, I think we probably get one game out of Mateta, and Nketiah comes in for the other one. I just don't see any reason why I need to sell Mateta though. I think we just roll the dice, hope he delivers in the Bournemouth game, and if we get any minutes in the Arsenal one, then that is just a bonus. I'm not expecting much though from any of the Crystal Palace assets, and therefore it does make the bench boost a little bit underwhelming, but I just think based on how the team is being prepared, and the fact I got 3 free transfers, I got to commit to this bench boost and just hope that I get significant minutes from those players that I'm slightly concerned about. So in terms of captaincy for game week 33, we got a lot of decent enough options available. You could go really rogue and go for an Arsenal defensive pick if you wanted to. Obviously, I don't recommend that myself. Always chase the upside. For my team, I think there are 3 clear picks. We have got Saka with his double game week. We got Marmoush with his double game week. And we've got Mo Salah with his single game week. Now, don't be looking past that single game week for Mo Salah. Leicester are honestly averaging like 2 to 3 goals conceded each and every game. And Liverpool are just solely focused on wrapping up this league, and they want to making sure that they do it in style. And this Leicester away game is plumb for a Mo Salah haul. The problem is, double game weeks always supersede single game weeks, and it's just how it's going to be once again, unfortunately. So the way I'm ranking it right now in terms of captaincy is, I don't feel confident about Bukayo Saka as a captain. I do think his minutes could be good. I've spoken about that for 33. It's beyond 33 where I have my concerns. But what if Arteta does look at that Ipswich game and say to himself, I can play Ethan Nwaneri in this one, and then I can play Saka for decent enough minutes in the Palace game, or vice versa. So for that reason, with that uncertainty, I just don't feel confident putting the captaincy on Saka. So by default, if I am leaning towards double game week players, it's going to be Marmoush. Now, Everton away, not ideal at all. And then the Aston Villa game is going to be anything. Both teams are playing in the FA Cup semi-final. We could see some rotation there, but I think Marmoush is going to be pretty good for minutes. I'm expecting around 140 minutes, and 140 minutes of Marmoush playing as a forward compared to 90 minutes of Mo Salah is actually really, really close. But I just have to put it on the double game weeker for Marmoush. But the vice captaincy, I'm going to put on Mo Salah, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was to be one of the highest scoring players in this double game week. So at the start of this video, I spoke about how I think the single game week players in the shape of Mbeumo and Bowen could actually be better than some of those double game week picks. And I thought it would be rude not to just show you how my team would look if I was to opt for that, because I'm still not locked in on that combination of Rodgers and Saka, it's worth noting. So what I wanted to do is just give you a bit of food for thought on what my team could look like, and it might help you guys as well. So if we were to go down that route, this would officially be a no Saka team, and we would just make the assumption that I think we are concerned about those minutes. So the first move that we would make is getting rid of Cole Palmer still, and we would be bringing in our first single game weeker in Bryan Mbeumo. We've spoken about him already and how I do think he offers long-term value. And this would be of the opinion that Savinho is going to be out of this Man City team as well if we do get an early team leak. And then we would be opting for our man in Jarrod Bowen. The Gabriel to Kivior move is locked in for my team regardless. And If I was to roll out this team as part of a bench boost, no hit is worth noting. I think it's perfectly fine. However, I do think we want to look at it and think, is there a -4 that we can take that long term still pays off that could actually give us some rewards? And I do think there is. And if I am confident enough that Bukayo Saka beyond game week 33 is not a good pick, then why don't I just double down on their defence? And double down, I mean triple down. And that could be something like a Livramento out and a Saliba in. Now, it is for a -4, but if I'm of the opinion that Arsenal are going to keep 2 clean sheets, then the -4 kind of pays itself off. So as part of a -4, and you can see in the top right corner here, I'm using FPL.team, it's worth noting, we will be doing Gabriel to Kivior, Livramento to Saliba, Savinho to Bowen, and then Cole Palmer out to Mbeumo as part of a -4. A little bit adventurous, but then if we go to game week 34, it's worth noting I will be playing my free hit, but it is worth seeing what a team looks like if you didn't have your free hit. As you can see, you kind of are in a bit of trouble if that's the case. Then coming into game week 35, I've always pinpointed game week 35 as the game week where you shouldn't be making a transfer. There is no operation target Leicester Southampton because they are playing against one another. But of course, we probably would be going for the Arsenal triple up and just accepting that that is the play with this team and hoping for the best. And of course, I spoke about in detail how I do think Jarrod Bowen is a fantastic pick this week with the Man United at the Spurs involvement in the Europa League. So the team would probably look something like this, which I would be more than content with, and I really would be looking to roll the transfer in game week 35. Now, coming into game week 36, we don't really know what is going to happen. However, if we were to use the projected fixtures set by Planet FPL, again, they are the ones that are stating, clear as day, that these are projected fixtures. So do not be coming at them if it is incorrect. They are very clear with their information. Then the team would look like this, and it would be ideal for my team. Martinez would come in for the double. Konsa would come in for the double. I would more than happily play somebody like a Murphy if I wanted to, and that could be in the shape of Sa. Now, with the 2 transfers available, of course, we got the triple Villa. That's great. We got the double Man City. It allows me to be flexible if we want to go to a Man City. But something that I really do like the look of is Mateta out and somebody like Chris Wood in. I think that could be fantastic at home against Leicester. And again, what it does is it allows me to be prepared for the potential blank in game week 37, which I think a lot of managers have to be considering. And that move alone allows me to pretty much have a solid team for game week 37. And then game week 38 is what it is, basically. So I just thought it was really handy to show you what that Mbeumo and Bowen move would look like. Because as I discussed, I think for game week 35, you've got Mbeumo at home against Man United, Bowen at home against Spurs, fantastic. And then in game week 36, we have got Mbeumo away against Ipswich, brilliant. And then Bowen playing Man United only a couple of days after that Europa League second leg. So I just wanted to give you guys an alternative direction that my team very may well go. Yes, guys, okay, that's going to wrap up today's game week 33 team selection video. As you can see, I have definitely not locked in my team. And I do apologise that I can't sit here right now and say to you, these are my guaranteed moves. But I think at this point in the season, it's better to make the right move than a rushed move because it is a very decisive part of the season. So as always, if you do want to stick around for my final team selection, I will be doing that on the deadline live stream. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell so you're alerted when I am going live. Any questions, please do pop them in the comment section and I will see you in tomorrow's deadline live. Take care. Cheers.